All right, and screen share is a go. We're already
nice.
in to the game here. It looks to be... Oh man, being able to spectate and hover things is amazing. It's a Teemo Ezreal. Actually, we've got Hexcore Frostbites going into TLC. Now, this list theoretically would have been favored. I remember when Lissandra first came out, and her making the Nexus tough made all the Teemo players cry salty tears. And now that they've reverted that change, mushrooms can now hit the Nexus in one big blast rather than individual pings. You can actually exist through that tough Nexus. And already we're seeing the Puffcat Peddler and the Hexcore Foundry set up, and the burn is going.
Yeah, I mean, the Foundry is the card in this matchup. I think the win rate probably swings by the high double digits, whether or not you have Hexcore into this matchup. And Lissandra Trundle, the way the deck is built, it is just not able to deal with, you know, a strong presence of shrooms in the deck and a Hexcore on board. It will be milling cards, it will be milling combo pieces, and it will be losing health all along the way. So this is looking like a very good setup for Darkodius right now.
This Hexcore Ezreal, it was on such a strong uptick in the metagame. I remember MTuck was one of the original players who was piloting the crap out of this deck, was yelling from the rooftops that it was good, and eventually once it caught on, then Lissandra really put a stop to that. And I'm glad to see it make a resurgence because it is a really powerful anti-control deck. And again, like you said, these lists that are drawing tons of cards have a lot of expensive pieces, can't empty their hands, do get punished by the Hexcore Foundry. TLC, the deck can't deal with landmarks. So things like Grand Plaza, things like Emperor's Dais, decks of that nature have always been a means to punish it. Just going to go for the Spirit Journey here to deny Teemo attacking. Has to keep the mushrooms at a minimum to try to survive here. We've only got Kindly Tavern Keeper and Withering Whale in the hand right now for healing, and already the burn is just consistently going through. Going to do a quick hover. There's 24 puff caps still in the deck, and yet more to come.
And we see the Trundle level, so we do only have access right now. We do have the Ice Veil Archers to freeze that Trundle, opting not to just jam an Ice Veil Archer. Maybe we'll have to use Three Sisters here. Trundle does pose a little bit of a threat if you're not able to find your freezes, especially leveled. It can chunk you down and do some serious damage to the Teemo Ezreal side.
This is a matchup where, you know, B's not going to be able to rely on the Watcher combo, most likely. It's in hand, but even though you're able to get it down, like you said, with the Three Sisters potentially coming through to stop that, it's just a matter of time. With the Teemo and the draw, you're just shuffling extra copies of your champions in by chance, and at 11 HP... you know, just the good old-fashioned P&Z burn might be able to go the distance. Lissandra is not yet leveled, so the tough Nexus means that all of that damage is going to be hitting at full capacity. But Trundle, attacking with Overwhelm, going to try to even out this Nexus HP.
Yep, and this is not what you want to see here. You don't want to be giving up Teemo quite yet, I would say. I mean, it is vulnerable to, of course, those ravines and those avalanches, but it is also a main win condition for you, so opting to go for the flash freeze here, most mana efficient way to protect the Teemo. Unfortunately, we don't have any health buffs in the hand, so this Teemo could still be going down this turn, but we are saying Teemo is a win condition, and we want to protect that at all costs.
And that, notably, that was 2 separate spell casts for the Puffcat Peddler, and the burn is just going to keep coming, already up to 30 puff caps, and the box needs to come through just to wipe this. You can really see it's shocking when TLC is the one that's feeling the pressure in any matchup, and the Hexcore Foundry, that inevitability is fantastic. Their AoE doesn't really help when you're drawing so many extra cards. Gonna throw some more burn down. Double Mystic Shot going onto the Nexus just to get some procs off of the Puffcat Peddler before it dies. Place your bets.
Yep, I like
Seven
that. I like
mushrooms,
that play a
you think
lot.
it's going to be enough here? The double draw at the start of the next round? Dealing 7?
Oh, that heal makes it a little bit more of a tall order, huh?
Oh, yeah. You know B is afraid. The unpredictability of the mushrooms also forces you to make these plays quite early. Lissandra Still just 1 out of 2. Needs a little bit more help there to get tough on the Nexus. Whew! I'm holding my breath. I know B is too. And Teemo is coming back in for more. Gonna double the shrooms in the deck. So this is gonna be almost 50 now, just going to the next round. And I think the only way you're going to be able to win here is if B does the Watcher combo right now and just blows up Darkodius' deck. And it'll just be a double draw or something with the with running out of cards on Darkodius' side and then the mushrooms coming through. I've actually never seen that interaction, so I'm not sure. Like, theoretically, if running out of cards happens at the same time that B draws mushrooms and dies to burn, which one happens first?
I think because priority is coming back to our turn, we would lose first, but it also could be a tie situation. And we do have confirmation now that there are 68 puff caps in the Trundle list deck to 16 cards left. So it's not a... I mean, with 2 draws, that should be enough to get it done. Tough Nexus coming down, though, may make that a little bit more difficult. Ezreal almost leveled as well, so we've got a lot of options here on the side of Darkodius to try to finagle his way towards this victory with chip damage all along the way.
I want to point out, too, Darkodius does have this Ezreal in hand here. If he just freezes one thing with the Icefell Archer, gets the Ezreal down, I think he's looking for B to tap below Vengeance mana, or like second Lissandra would be ideal, but ideally, definitely Vengeance mana. We can get that Ezreal down, and then even if we get that Watcher from B next turn, we might just be able to finish him off 1 damage at a time with that tough Nexus.
Currently, there's not enough space for combo as well, which is interesting. Oh no, he is killing his own Tavern Keeper that will allow enough space with an Ephemeral Ice Pillar on board.
Yeah, so again, you have to commit the mana to that play, right? Just to make space to set up. And when you give an extra couple rounds to a deck like this, it's spelling trouble. Fortunately, Lissandra putting tough on the Nexus will keep the Ezreal from burning down directly. But if Lissandra goes down... Yeah, when you directly target a unit, it deals 2 instead of 1. So that is going to be the source here. And with Hexcore refueling for this Ezreal, is this going to be it?
How many shrooms is it going to be?
3, 4.
3, 4! On 1 hit!
It's looking good.
Just 3!
Oh, there it is!
Woo!
And Darkodius gets it done with Teemo Ezreal into Trundle-less. Well played. Happy to see those draws at the end, I'm sure.
Going into game number 2 versus B, we've still got both perspectives going, and it looks to be Sejuani, Renekton, Overwhelm, and B is going to once again try to get a win with this TLC.
So Overwhelms, I would say, traditionally has a favored matchup into Trundle Lissandra, although if it is teched with enough amount of freezes, it can be fairly close on the Trundle Lissandra side. So it kind of, it's very draw dependent, this matchup, but I would say it's likely much easier to play from the Overwhelm side. Slam Overwhelms, slam Rune Runner, go face, and that is the game plan.
And I think that the Overwhelm lists, have been taking in Sivir a lot more, just to have an extra unit with Spell Shield. That's something that TLC hates, that having to spend that extra card, that extra removal to pop the Spell Shield before they can start whittling down. The boon to that situation, of course, is Blighted Ravine does go through Spell Shield, so some confident stacking of removals can get past it, but 7 damage being threatened already on round 3, Darkodius seems to be off to a great start.
It's definitely looking that way. You see the preemptive Tavern Keeper there being played because, yes, you're missing the 3 healing, but you're also blocking 4 damage and killing the Merciless Hunter. So it is a positive trade, although you're not getting the full value of the card on the side of B.
And Preservarium is also very nice. You know that you're going to have to survive a lot of board wipes, and the game is going to be a lot longer than you're expecting. So getting this down early as well to make sure you have as much fuel as possible is great. The extra draw maybe lets you get your Ancient Yetis into the hand a little bit earlier too. And there's the Ruin Runner on curve. This is what you want to see before B gets a Trundle or something else down that can withstand this pressure. Just going to pass.
Nation, a pretty big draw here from B as well. He's still lacking the freeze effect, which is going to be key to deal with this Battle Fury eventually, but that Runation might end up coming in big here.
Yeah, so isn't going to play the Trundle down to chump this Ruin Runner. He's just going to take the damage on the chin, set it down to 2 HP, and clean it up with Blighted Ravine.
Although we do have the Troll Chant here to protect it, and Blighted Ravine does go through Spell Shield, it's important to note, although they'd have to have a second one next turn now to try to get rid of it again.
And keeping this Ruin Runner alive for another rotation of damage might just be exactly what Darkodius needs to close this out. Hitting this with the Battle Fury is going to be incredibly powerful. B right now might just preemptively Vile Feast to pop the Spell Shield and maybe try to set up an Avalanche here.
Yeah, I mean, that Spell Shield paired with the Battle Fury is, it is the reason that this deck has been rising so much in terms of win rate and presence on the ladder. It does well as well into some aggro decks, Azir Aurelia, and even some more like later game control decks like we're seeing here. It kind of hits that sweet spot of having enough draw and end game to go the distance, but also can have those explosive turns because of Battle Fury, because of Shapestone, honestly because of Ruin Runner as well.
Yeah, so here comes the Vile Feast just to get another blocker. Trundle is vulnerable, and so the Sand Soldier is going to pull that to the side, and there is a lot of damage being threatened now. Coming on to B, Darkodius might just be getting the miracle matchups that they're asking for. And so, Duckling, let me ask you, do you pull with Ruin Runner to kill Trundle, or do you think that going for maximum damage here is the best line?
So we have this Battle Fury here. The problem is that to get lethal, we have to pre-commit it, right? And you always have to worry about that freeze effect from or Vengeance from the opponent. Now, we don't see B. We see that B doesn't have either of those cards, but Darkodius still does, unfortunately, have to respect it. I think killing the Trundle oftentimes in this matchup can be more favorative for the TLC player because they get to play another one, and then they can have another Ice.
It's a bait.
So even if they don't have the fading memories in hand, they can still get to their combo. And also, because it's an open list and we see that B's not running Atrocity, you can also take a little bit of damage from the Trundle too. So it's, again, not as big of a deal to go for the kill on it.
So this is 100%... Oh, sorry. You finish up.
No, that was... Nope. Yeah, go for it.
This is exactly what good Overwhelm players want to be doing. They want to be presenting lethal with less committal options, such as the Shapestone, and then going for a Battle Fury all-in. Not pre-committing that while opponent still has full spell mana, and we see that line of holding back until the right moment, that led to the win, and that is a quick 2-0 from Darkodius.
We saw it was one of the decks that was the most banned, and a lot of players often would just ban that deck, try to counter Nasus Thresh, or vice versa, ban Nasus Thresh and just hard target TLC. And yeah, it was really good draws. It wasn't a situation where like, oh, the Matron combo wasn't assembled. It was just pure mid-game dominance from Darkodius into, that consistent burn and pressure from Teemo Ezreal. When you have something that can put you on a clock like that, TLC can't stand it because they just want to kick back, respond to what you're doing, and get to their combo. But when you has that consistent pressure, that burn, they can't proactively respond. The deck can't shift gears the way another list might be able to be a bit more aggressive, perhaps.
100%, and I've actually just jumped into a new game here that we have queued up. It's partway through. It is Bambooper into SmokChan, and we have Discard Aggro playing into Lux Heimerdinger turrets with Grand Plaza.
Okay. I don't have, unfortunately, either of those. I think added right now. SmokChan.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we got them all added before hopping into them, because I can't show them either.
We can switch to another game. Are you guys on the cams right now?
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
give
I
us-
stopped my feed
yeah.
for the cam.
Yep. Same here.
Okay. Which game do you have, Duck? We could hop over to one that you have.
I'm uh I think it's easier if we do it the way that you're doing it. I just need the if you can
Oh,
just
Mhm.
message me.
sure.
I message you on Discord too. Yeah,
Okay.
the like the name format, and I'll add the people, and then we're good. We can do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it,
And
man.
we'll, of course, we just have to check in with the bracket because when we started, like we said, it was still under construction. So Duckling and I are going to familiarize ourselves with the bracket as it continues. And if Darkodius, keeps up this win streak and moves through, though, that'll be a guaranteed perspective that we do have. We're going to try to make sure that we can show as many hands as possible as we move through today's broadcast. It won't always be possible, of course, but fortunately, with certain established archetypes, it's more apparent that players are considering certain cards at certain times of the game, and with open deck lists as well, there's a different take on the meta, on your lines of play. There's certain mind games where dragons in open deck list formats will run like that one of Judgment, for example, just to keep their opponent honest. But we're just moving through, looking for the next game. And I'm honestly, just after that first set, I think that we're in for quite a show, if that's any indication. And I'm seeing a
100%.
message here in chat just to clarify. Yes, there was a change once again to the way Teemo mushrooms work. When you draw a card that has multiple mushrooms on it, it does the damage all in one chunk. So that way, if the enemy nexus is tough from Lissandra, if the damage will just get reduced by 1 rather than each individual ping getting canceled out by that. And I want to take a chance to look at the bracket as well. Nightstar saying that the first round was actually pretty rough. A lot of strong players looking to knock each other out of the tournament here already in round 1.
Monty pulled up here, and I don't know. Do you have Craitter added by any chance, Scarzig, or probably not, right?
We can try to get
No.
that for you, Scarzig, in the meantime. But right now, we can just
that sounds
focus
good.
on seeing what's happening here. And we've got another Trundle list into Thresh Nasus. Oh boy, this gives me Seasonals flashbacks. So it's 8 HP right now. Pretty small Nasus, but double Atro and a Deny in the hand. Christo, this is looking pretty good. I think maybe you do want a full swing here. You are 1 wider. Yep, exactly. Push that extra damage, and just make Atrocity very, very threatening. We might see a freeze coming down from the side of Trundle Liss. But this is a decent position to be in a matchup that is typically a little unfavored on the Thresh Nasus side, I would say.
I wonder if I've heard some whispers that the deck does have the means to sort of tech its way through the different matchups, or it's unfavored. Do you think there is any avenue that Nasus Thresh could to like shift the deck or try to build it more aggressively or more late game to help its chances?
Duckling, do you have any thoughts on that? I'll let you go first.
So I mean, for this matchup in particular, right, a negation's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I still see most lists still just running 2 though, anyways, because it can be a bit bricky. As we can already see in Monty's hand right now, he's got 2 Atrocity and 1 right. Fortunately, he does have the Glimpse Beyond that'll hopefully be able to draw him into, more cards to be able to play here. But yeah, that's generally the take for this matchup in particular. But yeah, you're definitely right. You can. I've seen, especially on ladder, all different kinds of versions of Nasus Thresh with people running the Prey or 3 copies of the Prey, and some running more like 3 copies of Butcher and just a couple copies of the Prey.
Oh, so just trying to get those early slays and get a more aggressive start, you think might be the way? I remember way back when it comes to almost any Freljord Shadow Isles list is like if you could play things with 3 HP or 4 HP, you're generally in a good spot. So
that
could
still
see the
holds
list.
true for sure.
Yep.
I actually played
Exactly.
into Raptor in the seasonals in my round 7, and he put Ruin Runners in the deck. He added 2 of them, and that was a tech I had literally never seen before. I think only one other player ran it that seasonals as well. I was so surprised to see that when I was looking at his deck list. So yeah, you could be slotting in cards like that as well. I also know that if you are able to level a Thresh from the Thresh Nasa side, that's a very, very strong play. It makes them kind of deal with 2 threats, and it's quite easy to get Thresh to have those, death triggers, given that there's avalanches and ravines and vials and all of that. So yeah, the champions are definitely a huge threat here from the side of Thresh Nasus, and I know running right as well, just to make sure that you have those champions and those slay triggers. That is very key in this matchup as well.
Mm-hmm. The Rite of Calling has proven to be very powerful in that list. You know, you sacrifice the Sand Soldier from your turn 1 Dune Keeper, and then that way you're guaranteed to have that Nasus in hand that you want to immediately start working for. Like, when you don't have to worry about top decking your champion, you have it ready to go. You can change your entire game plan in order to make that the strongest play you want to do on round 6 or even round 5, right? Setting up for that Thresh. And your opponent is also sweating because they know you got a champion. They don't know if it's Nasus or Thresh. So then they're like, okay, I have to save this Culling Strike for the Thresh. And then if you don't play Thresh, you play Nasus instead, they're sort of down 1 card, right? Because they're preparing for a possibility that ended up being an incorrect guess.
So it looks like this is going to be the turn here. Pretty much Monte's going to have to go for Atrocity and pray that Craitter does not have a Flash Freeze in hand. And I think that's really what this game's going to come down to here. Craiter's on 4 mana. There's no way for Monte to shuffle any champions into his deck. This Watcher attack will go through.
We have double Watcher as well. If one wasn't enough, we're going overkill with it.
Obliterate your deck twice. Negative cards. It's if you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. The Watcher, you know, if you aren't running a deck that can keep that pressure up in the early mid game, they get their pieces, and that's going to be all she wrote. The list, and I've seen some miracles happen. You shuffle that champion in, buy yourself another couple rounds. Maybe you can go the distance, but you know, it's only a matter of time. I think it's very rare to have one champion alive at that point in the game against all the AoE. And then still be able to make that shuffle.
I like this play from Christo here. Yeah, he's going for the block to get the spell shield.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that,
I mean,
Duck?
if Craitter has the Flash Freeze, he's got to use it now anyways. But yeah, it's definitely the right line. It gives you always want to give your opponent the most chances to make a misplay, right? Unfortunately, he does have that Flash Freeze.
Unfortunately for Christo, fortunately for Craitter to tear. There it is, Christo dropping the Vlad, a true gentleman. Close, very close. Sometimes they have the answers, sometimes they don't have the answers.
Good. All right, I'm going to break the desk here when I pull up the feed for y'all.
Just try NA1, I would say.
I've got We the People. It is... Oh, you can't see the hash. Wait, there it is. Yeah, it's NA1. It's NA1. It's NA1.
Oh, okay, yep.
Is it spaced out like we space the space people, or all one word?
It's all one word. But getting into the game at hand, We the People is playing Shyvana Aurelion Sol, the classic build, with one Zoe at the bottom, into Kemy on Nightfall. One of my favorite decks. Has 2 Dianas in hand ready to go. This is going to be a tricky one. The Nightfall list really struggles right now just because Targon Demacia has begun to tech in Radiant Guardian for even more healing. And so it's going to come down to the specific tech that Kemy has decided for this Nightfall variant. Some are opting for Moonlight Affliction. It just gives you a way to cleanse that lifesteal and tough, deny that block, and try to swing through. This list sometimes can struggle to deal with the elusive chip damage, so if you have copies of the flight early in the game, you can do a lot of early work to try to get that burn through. But right now, heading into the mid game, Kemy still has a lot more work to do.
Looks like we got a host from Rob. Thank you for the host. And so right now I have Kemy's list pulled up. What are some of the cards we want to be seeing? There is a Cygnus the Moonstalker in here as a finisher, as well as one Atrocity.
Ooh, okay. I can definitely see that. Those are two very classic finishers. I know that Nick Makes Plays is an enormous fan of Cygnus right now. And as I talked about a little bit earlier, Hush isn't as big of a threat to Cygnus being able to combo off. And being able to sneak through that extra 6 or 8 damage might be exactly what you need. And with the advent of Unto Dusk, you have a chance to build up your Dianas to very massive heights and then close out with an Atrocity. So definitely makes sense. Moonlight Affliction lets you perhaps do some more shenanigans in the mid game, but Atrocity and Cygnus are definitely, I would say, more late game finishers for the Nightfall variant.
100%. And it's really nice to see Diana performing well in a deck. I was a big fan of old Atrocity invokes with Zoe and Diana, and Diana in that deck was closer to a follower than a champion, I would say.
Yep.
You're very rarely leveling her in that deck, but in this deck, like you said, you're getting those Nightfall triggers very consistently. You can buff up her attack stat a huge amount, and then she becomes an Atrocity threat, and she's a 2-mana card. I mean, that is a lot of value there. So we see a Diana coming down, almost leveled. Maybe... Yep, we have another Nightfall trigger in hand here, so the level is imminent.
I think that Kemy might just go for... Oh, okay. I thought there was going to be a risk being taken with the Solari Soldier cleaning up the Shyvana, but Kemy just going to sacrifice the Nocturne here. Isn't going to try to hold this back to try to level it up, try to get any sort of value here. With the Dragon Guard Lieutenant in play, it might get pulled and killed next round regardless. Both of these challenges, though, are very risky against Sharpsight.
That is true. Sharpsight would be a complete blowout here. We do see that isn't happening. Maybe Kemy feels like they're in a position on 3 cards. They need to get this game moving along, take favorable trades, get rid of the lifesteal, and kind of go all in a way. And it looks like it's going to pay off. I do like the Nocturne for Shyvana trade. There's a lot of fearsome blockers in this Dragon's deck, and Shyvana can get out of hand and steal games if you do allow her to stay on the board and level.
And so here it is. Single Combat is actually the card of choice, guaranteeing the lifesteal to go through with the Fangs. And a level coming through. Okay, I like this. The Pale Cascade will level the Diana and then give +1/+1 to survive this at 1 HP. So Diana is going to live to fight another day. And another copy being shuffled in might give us another Pale Cascade in the future. But Nocturne still goes down. And so even though you have Diana as a way to potentially keep the board under control, without that power spike of Nocturne to threaten, We the People could still very easily stabilize from this position. And Screeching Dragon is exactly what you want to see.
15 health left on the side of We the People is a lot of health left, I would say, for this point in the game, turn 6. We do have these Crescent Guardians coming down to maybe chunk that life total down a bit more. But it is stabilizable, like you said.
Stabilizable. It is. That's like the Runeterra. It's the Runeterra version of winnable.
Having that Consider Strike is going to be big here too at stopping Kemy from getting any cheeky lethal from like what we just saw here, the Atrocity top deck, and as well as like ever really probably getting control back here. So we'll see if this Diana is going to be enough, but that's kind of like the necessary value that Kemy needs here to be able to keep up with We the People.
And just going all in with the Crescent Guardians here, trying to force through as much damage as you can, and then perhaps you start to force We the People to play even more defensively. You force out like an early star shaping or something to keep them from developing the board. They're just looking to heal so that they don't die to these Doom Beasts and Atrocity. So it might actually come to fruition. It's very difficult to predict what line you're supposed to take in any given matchup because the mulligans and the lines change so volatilely from game to game and matchup to matchup with Nightfall, right? And it also just goes heavily dependent on your draws. So that's why the Pale Cascades, the Stalking Shadow, and the Unto Dusk is so important. So that way you're getting all the power cards you need for any particular matchup. And right now, if there is no response from We the People, 10 damage also being sent through on the Nexus, and Diana is still alive.
That's huge. We see the double Doom Beast in the hand of Kemy as well. Oh, the star shaping top deck. That could definitely shift things. He has to play this turn carefully, though. He doesn't have enough to go for the Eclipse Dragon and still have the Concerted Strike mana up. He's 1 mana short of that, unfortunately, which does make this turn a little bit awkward. He might have to draw and hope for a Shyvana here.
So Atro is a one of. I'm wondering if you play around it here. You know, do you have that luxury? If I were in We the People shoes, I may be going for a draw dragons into Nightfall Eclipse play just to be setting up a better Concerted Strike for next turn, and maybe you get lucky off of the Eclipse Dragon and, you know, you get a 1 or 0 cost blocker as well. It's a really hard spot to be in here on the side of We the People, I would say.
The Atrocity in Nightfall, you know, isn't hitting for, you know, the large chunks of damage you typically see from other decks that would run it. But when you're down to 5 HP, it becomes a lot more of a possibility. I'm thinking that We the People might just try. I'm thinking Star Shaping might be a very interesting line. Star Shaping, and then just try to kill something with a Screeching Dragon to even this out.
This is the safer line for this turn, but what do we do next turn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How are we playing a unit this turn? We can't. Nothing playable from Star Shaping with 6 mana left. And if we do trade, we don't have any blockers. So yes, with a Concerted Strike and a block next turn right now, you could only potentially be taking 5 damage, but this is looking like a hard spot here.
I think you just take this pass if you're We the People here, right? There's no reason to trade your unit. Just you don't have to worry about Kemy developing now. You can't play anything yourself. I think we just press OK here and hope the top deck maybe like a second Concerted, or I'm not sure if he's running Judgment. Ooh, I don't. This is aggressive.
Yeah, and you talked about it, like, one of Atrocity. What are the odds they have it? And just trying to even out the board here.
Yeah.
And Kemy doesn't pull the trigger on it either. At 10 HP, that means even if they do Atrocity, you're still safe.
I think I'd like to see saving that Concerted Strike in response to an Atrocity, but We the People may not feel like they have that luxury at this point. So Nightfall is doing Nightfall things here.
It was an interesting play, right? Because it gave the stack to the Screeching Dragon, which made it so that it could pull the Diana theoretically without it dying. But it was very unlikely that Kemy didn't have a way to buff that up. I am surprised that Kemy ended up playing the Doom Beast into the Screeching Dragon. But I guess it makes sense since he had a second one to redevelop there.
But we could have been keeping those Nightfall triggers for the Diana into an Atrocity play, right?
Yep, definitely.
So we were giving up some attack stats there to drain. We don't need the drain. And here comes the Nocturne down, but this will allow We the People to play one of the best cards in the game, the Sunforger.
And now things just get a little bit more interesting. Kemy just going to go for the full swing. Sorry, Sunforger needs to block further up the curve to make sure that lifesteal goes through. And then Screeching Dragon is also going to block. I think you might... And then we get to the point where you have to Atrocity to the Nocturne to sidestep the lifesteal, so that way you have lethal 2 ways. And We the People has to say, okay, I have to deal with the Nocturne so that the Atrocity doesn't resolve. I have to try to get my lifesteal, or... maybe have another combat trick, second concerted strike in single combat. These are the things that Kemy's considering now. And as you talked about, committing those Doom Beasts the last round, you know, you've kind of put all of your cards on the table, and We the Peoples now only really needs to worry about Atrocity at this point.
I don't mind the block on the Doom Beast here, so you're not dead to a Doom Beast or an Onto Dusk. Oh, you would actually be dead onto Dusk because of the Diana buff.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a tough spot.
This is just
And very shocking. Again, this is like climbing the hill, climbing the mountain of Targon with Nightfall. Is you know, sometimes it comes through where they don't get enough. They don't get enough healing.
And here's where you really wish you had a single combat or another concerted.